Are you looking to resod your yard, but you're overwhelmed with the amount of choices that there are? Maybe you have some shade in your backyard and you're wondering what is the best type of grass for shaded areas. Well, that's what I'm going to talk about in today's video, but first I want to introduce myself. My name is Kyle Tucker and I have over 15 years of experience in lawn care, specializing in fertilizer and weed control and pre-emergence. And I just enjoy talking about lawn care. And that's what this channel is all about. And I make videos on lawn care related things like fertilizer, weed control, and pre-emergent. So if that's the type of content that you would enjoy watching, please consider subscribing. I would appreciate it if you came along on this journey with me. So I get asked often, what is the best type of grass for shade? Well, I'm a believer that there really is no good option for fully shaded areas. There are options that are worse than others. I've always explained it like this. There is the worst option for shade, and then there's an option that's a little less worse than that, and then another type of grass that's a little less worse than that, and then a little less worse than that one. So I believe that all grass needs some sunlight. There really is no type of grass that'll grow fully in the shade and be as thick and as green as you want it to be. Now, in this video, I'm talking about warm season turf grasses. I live in Alabama, so I only deal with warm season turf grasses. There might be some cool season turf grasses that do well in the shade. Fescue is one, tall fescue and fine fescue. I see some fescue grasses in the transition zone. We're in the warm season turf grass zone, and then there's the transition zone, and then you've got your cool season turf grass zone. So fescue would probably be the best option for growing in the shade, but I'm gonna talk about 4 main types of warm season turf grass and whether or not they do well in the shade or not. I'm at a local park out here in my hometown, and this grass was sodded maybe 8 months ago. It's rooted in quite well. It's looking good, but this is Bermuda grass. It gets full sunlight right here in the middle, but along the edges, there's just a ton of trees, ton of shade. Maybe along here on the edges does not get full sun, but for the most part, this area is getting full sun. So let's talk about Bermuda grass. Bermuda needs 8 hours of direct sunlight for it to really be lush and green and thick. So if you have a question about your shade, really the first thing you need to do is just to look up and then look around. If you think it's going to get 8 hours of direct sunlight, Bermuda is a great choice. However, if you get less than 8 hours of direct sunlight, Bermuda grass will start to thin out. I've seen people plant Bermuda in shaded backyards where they don't even get 4 or 5 hours of direct sunlight. And it looks good for the first year, but then it starts to thin out and they wonder why. What am I not doing right to this grass? You know, I cut it, I water it. Why is it not thriving? Well, it's the shade. So as a reminder, Bermuda needs 8 hours of direct sunlight for it to really do well. Zoysia grass, on the other hand, and there are different breeds of Zoysia, but Zoysia needs 4 hours of direct sunlight for it to really do well. At a minimum. Once you start getting less than 4 hours of direct sunlight, then even Zoysia grass is going to start to thin out. So you really want to evaluate your property. You want to look around, make sure you get 4 hours of direct sunlight on the area that you plan on resodding. So areas like this, with all these trees here, you want to make sure that you're getting sunlight. So before you purchase sod, before you get your plan, you just need to evaluate your property and make sure that you get the desirable amount of sunlight that you need for whatever type of grass you're looking at. So I mentioned Bermuda, you need 8 hours of direct sunlight for Bermuda to do well. Zoysia, you need 4 hours of direct sunlight. Now, when you get directly underneath these trees over here, you really don't need to plant any sod at all directly underneath trees, especially ones as big as these. So I like what this park did here. They just sort of stopped the sod right here. They're probably going to put some pine straw or mulch areas. But remember that, you really never want to plant grass directly under a tree, because it's not even really a shade thing. It's just the roots of the tree are always going to take up the nutrients and the water before the grass is able to get it. So if you plant grass right underneath a tree, it may look good for 6 months to a year, but then it's going to thin out quickly. Here is some tall fescue clumps right here. Now, it wasn't really, I don't know if this was seeded like this or if this is just growing wild, but this is tall fescue, and it will grow in the shade. But this was just kind of a poor planting job here if it was planted. Like I said, maybe this is just growing wild here. So the Bermuda grass at this park was a fine choice. Look up, it's gonna get 8 hours of direct sunlight. So this Bermuda grass is gonna end up doing just fine here at this park. All right, here we have Bermuda grass planted in the shade. This area does get a little bit of sunlight, but we've got 2 huge trees here that produce a lot of shade, and the neighbor's yard has even bigger trees that throw an incredible amount of shade on this property. So was Bermuda grass a good choice right here? It was not. Bermuda needs 8 hours of direct sunlight to thrive, to at least 8 hours of direct sunlight. So we don't get that here. So Zoysia probably would have been a better option. Well, look right here. Look at the difference. This is Bermuda right here, and this is Zoysia right next to each other. You can tell already how much better Zoysia sod does in the shade. It's naturally a thicker type grass. It grows straight up. It's a bunch type grass. So Zoysia is doing much better here in the shade. Also, they probably let this Bermuda grass get a little too tall before they mowed it. Look at all that thatch. All that needs to be bagged and removed. This is just gonna choke out the grass itself the longer it sits here. Some people think you're re-fertilizing the yard when you let the thatch just sit there like that, but I mean, you know, maybe occasionally you can let the clippings blow back out just to give it some more nutrients and putting those nutrients back into the soil. But for the most part, I would remove those clippings, get them out of here, especially in shaded areas like this. You want as much sunlight to get down into the soil to produce new growth from the roots. And all of this thatch here is just blocking the sunlight. Also, you don't want to go weeks without mowing your grass. If you let it get too tall and you come in and hack all of it away, this is what you're going to get. Just really thin grass with a lot of thatch laying around. I understand that some people can't cut their grass on a weekly basis. So if you do let it go weeks and weeks without being mowed, gradually mow it down, you know, each time you mow. So mow just a little bit, hack the top of it off, then come back the next week, lower the blade, cut a little bit more off. So gradually lower your lawnmower blade instead of just coming in and do one big thick mowing. The roots of your grass will appreciate that much better. Okay, so what do we have here? We have Bermuda grass, 1 day old. This was just laid yesterday. Was Bermuda grass a good choice here in this area? Well, if you're asking yourself that question, what do? You look up, look around. We got a tree line here that throws some shade, but one tree there, sorry about the construction work over there making noise. One tree there that's throwing a little bit of shade, but they did the right thing by putting pine straw underneath that tree. I would say Bermuda grass was a great choice here. We're getting full sun. It's kind of a cloudy day today, but you're going to get close to 8 hours of sunlight on this. So Bermuda was fine for this particular area. Now, new sod does not need fertilizer, pre-emergent, or weed control, or anything like that. Water is your best friend when it comes to new sod. You can see these people are watering daily. Watering daily is fine for new sod. So don't feel like you have to put fertilizer on new sod to make it grow. You don't need that at all. Just keep the water on it until it gets a root system established, and then you can start treating it with fertilizers and weed control and products like that. So we're talking about shade, right? What is the best type of grass to grow in the shade? Look at all the shade that we have here on this property. Huge trees, privacy all the way around with a lot of huge bushes, other small trees. Well, what kind of grass do we have here? This is Zoysia. Now, I always get confused with the different breeds of Zoysia. I know I've got 15 years of lawn care experience, and I don't know my Zoysia breeds. I believe this is Emerald Zoysia here, though. So, as I've repeated myself multiple times, Zoysia needs at least 4 hours of direct sunlight for it to do well. Now, look at all of this filtered sunlight that we're getting. Filtered sunlight is when the sun shines through the trees, where you still get sunlight, but it's not direct sunlight. So we get pretty much daily filtered sunlight here. Let's see, let's look up. This is the whole backyard here. It's covered. You got a little opening there where the sun shines through. So we might get 4 hours of sunlight here in this backyard. Maybe. I wouldn't think we would get any more than 4. But look at the very back side of this property here. It's probably a smart decision here, but you can tell where the sodded Zoysia grass ends and what I call junk grass. It just, whatever they can get to grow here picks up right here. Now, if you want to have this as your lawn, that's fine. It's just weeds. I don't think this is any particular type of grass. It could be a mix of Centipede, St. Augustine, dollar weed. I mean, just weeds and whatever you can get to grow here. And that's an option too. Don't forget that. It doesn't have to be a sodded grass for your lawn. If you have this and it's green and it keeps erosion from happening, sure, you have to cut this grass just as often as sodded grass, but you know, this is a good option here too. Just whatever you can get to grow, as long as you keep it mowed, it looks right, it looks good. Down here in this extreme shaded corner here, you see a lot of moss, and moss is fine too. If you can get moss to grow in the shade, it's green, it looks good. This area doesn't really look good. You got a lot of rocks and gravel underneath here. But for the purposes of this video, we're talking about sodded grass and what is the best option for the shade. Zoysia was a good choice here in this backyard. I just got done fertilizing, so it's only going to improve at this point. But there's a little hole there where some sun can shine through. So after evaluating this backyard, I think we're going to get 4 hours of sun throughout a typical summer day. So this grass will end up being just fine. Zoysia was a good choice for this backyard. Well, now I feel guilty for not knowing my breeds of Zoysia grass. Now I'm at a different property here. This is, I believe, Empire Zoysia, or this could be Z52. This might be I don't know. I have no idea. The last property we were at, I'm pretty sure that was Emerald Zoysia. I believe this is Empire Zoysia because Empire usually or sometimes looks kind of like centipede grass, and this does have a centipede look about it. However, it's Zoysia, and that's the main thing we're talking about here. So this is full shade right here. So here where it gets a little bit of sunlight, it's thriving. This Zoysia looks great right here, but as soon as you get underneath this tree here, it starts to thin out. St. Augustine grass is your best option for shade. This is St. Augustine that you're looking at now. It's a wider bladed grass. it typically needs 4 hours. Well, it prefers 4 hours of sunlight, but St. Augustine can handle filtered sunlight fairly well. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, Zoysia grass prefers 4 hours of direct sunlight. Well, St. Augustine can get 4 hours of filtered sunlight and still look good. St. Augustine's nickname is actually the shade grass of the South, so it is known to tolerate shade much better than other types of sod grass. So St. Augustine is a great choice if you live in the South and you have a lot of shade. It's a great option to go with. The last type of grass I want to mention is centipede. This is centipede grass. I'll try to get a close-up look of it. So centipede grows kind of like St. Augustine. It grows with these long runners, which I don't want to purposely pull one out, but they have very strong, long runners, and it spreads very easily. But we're talking about shade and whether or not these grasses do well in the shade. So some facts about centipede is that it prefers about 6 hours of direct sunlight. So here in this area, it's doing fine. But centipede grass is trying to grow underneath all these trees too. I don't think you'll get anything to grow directly underneath all of these big trees here. Obviously the centipede is not growing, it's not spreading in here. Got some weeds mixed in here. So if you have a property like this, you really just want to kind of lower your expectations as far as getting grass to grow underneath here. You know, you could just leave it dirt like this or bring in mulch and pine straw. But as far as grass goes, you're not going to get anything to grow underneath here. But as soon as you get out from underneath the trees, the centipede grass is doing just fine. So to kind of summarize everything that we've talked about in this video, St. Augustine grass is your best choice for a shade-tolerant grass. St. Augustine does great in the shade. Your next option would be Zoysia. I prefer emerald Zoysia. It's more carpet-like. So St. Augustine, the best. Next best option is Zoysia, any breed of Zoysia. Centipede would be next, but as you can see, it does not grow in the shade. But like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, they're all, worse. There's worse options, and then less worse and less worse. So your third option would be centipede grass, and in last place you would have Bermuda grass, which is just shouldn't even be considered in the conversation of whether or not you should grow it in the shade. But Bermuda grass is coming in last place. A bonus suggestion is to put in artificial turf. If you have an area that gets full shade, no sunlight, and you can't get any grass to grow at all, artificial turf is another option for you. I'm seeing more and more people invest in this and put it in areas where they can't get grass to grow. If it's a small backyard with a lot of shade, I have seen quite a few people put in artificial turf, so I thought it was worth mentioning.